welcome back to my channel. In today's video, it is time for another one of my body mod Q&As. If you're new here, every single month I do a body mod Q&A. If you want to submit a question for this Q&A, you can either leave them in the comments on this video or you can follow me over on Instagram. Wait for me to pop up the little question box and you can ask over there. And these questions typically range from body mod questions regarding me specifically and like my journey with them, or just overall questions in general. Like if you're dealing with an issue and need some help. And you all submitted a lot of questions this month, so let's go ahead and get into it. And also, all of these are completely anonymous. I take the usernames out. How to get rid of a helix piercing scab. By scab, do you mean a bump? So like just a regular old piercing bump? Because a scab could just be like any other scab that you may get, like, you know, a cut on your leg, cut on your finger, or anything like that. But if you mean a bump, I have an entire video on how you can get rid of that, and you can go check it out. Love the look of the dangly earring in your second lobe piercing, or whatever you call it. Mine is super close to my now to a 0 gauge earring, so they won't fit anymore. Are yours actually in a third hole? They are. So I have 3 lobe piercings. One is obviously stretched to 1/2 inch. Then I have a second and a third, and the little dangly jewelry that you're referring to is actually in my 3rd lobe, and in the 2nd lobe is just a stud. I get a lot of questions about this little dangly piece. It actually came from Amazon, so it's probably not the best quality. I typically, especially for like facial piercings or any other cartilage piercings, I do typically buy those pieces straight from my piercer. But for my lobes, for some reason I don't have the same rules for jewelry with my lobes that I do with the rest of my piercings. I don't know why, but they came from Amazon. Everything else came from my piercer. What kind of design are you planning on getting on your chest and hands? I feel like I've said this in the last 3 body mod Q&As now. I just said at the beginning of this year that I wanted to get my chest done. Does that mean I'm gonna get it done? No, I just wanna get it done. Do I have any ideas for it right now? No. However, I did just submit a request to my tattoo artist for my hands. I did submit that design idea off. Hopefully I hear something back soon. I'm gonna kind of go in line with how each arm is. So I'm looking for something floral. I gave more details in the request, but you'll just have to wait and see when I get them done. But yeah, no plans for chest right now. If I can just get my hands done this year, that's plenty for me. I used the Claire's Rapid Solution on a lobe piercing. I'm allergic to the bleach in it. I washed with soap and water and took Benadryl, and the hives cleared in hours. If it had been a worse reaction, what do you do? So what do? You don't use Claire's anything. You don't get anything done at Claire's. I'm really hoping that you got your lobes done by a professional and not at Claire's. I'm just gonna assume that you went to Claire's and got the solution, didn't actually get your piercing done there. If you did, please don't. They are not trained. They are not professionals. They watch like a 10-minute video that says, here's how it goes. I have an entire video about why you shouldn't get pierced at Claire's and why piercing guns are bad. Anyway, in the future, use something that is actually made by professionals. So you can get a pre-made one, much like the Claire's Rapid Solution. They make pre-made ones that are actually good. So you have H2 Ocean and NEILMED. I personally prefer NEILMED because it does have like a little nozzle that sprays directly onto it. It makes it a little bit easier to get it on there. You can also make your own solution in the future with water, preferably distilled. You don't really want to use tap water for that. Distilled water and non-iodized sea salt. You do have to measure it correctly, otherwise you can irritate it further. But at the end of the day, please don't ever get anything from Claire's. They are not professionals. But if that does happen in the future, Benadryl absolutely can help with a reaction. But if you notice that it gets worse, go seek a doctor. I have my lobes double pierced and a daith in my right ear. What do you recommend I get next? Honestly, I should do another one of my picking my subscribers next piercing videos. If anyone's actually interested in that, let me know in the comments below. But without seeing your ear anatomy, it's kind of hard for me to say, oh, I think you should get this. If there's one out there that you're really interested in, that's the one you should go for. But maybe I'll do another one of my picking my subscribers next piercings, and then that way you can submit a picture of your ears and I can look at it a little bit better. I started stretching my first lobe piercings at the beginning of the year. I haven't had a blowout yet and have been massaging my lobes in order to help them loosen up, along with the other general maintenance. I've also been waiting at least a month and a half between each stretch. Despite this, I haven't been able to get to a 14 gauge yet, as it is painful when I try. Would you suggest I try the tape-in method instead? The problem with the tape-in method at that small of a size, it could almost be too much. So like just one little wraparound could almost be too much. Usually you find the tape-in method at larger sizes. You don't typically see it at the smaller sizes. Not saying that it can't be done, but if you are noticing that like with a taper or something like that, that it's just not going, you could try it. Again, Might be a little bit more difficult just because that jewelry is gonna be so small. That hole is gonna be really small, and it's gonna be like a singular wraparound to help with it, but that could be a way to ease into it better. How is your Medusa going, and will you keep it permanently? Did I ever imply that I wasn't? I don't know, that question for some reason makes me feel like I implied I wasn't gonna keep it. No, that's one of my favorite piercings. I've had it for years now. Have I been implying that I'm getting rid of it? I'm really sorry if I have. No, I love my Medusa / Philtrum. I love it so much. Next to my septum, it's my favorite piercing, so yes, it's not going anywhere. And it's good. Again, I've had it for years, so it doesn't cause me any problems anymore. How painful are hand tattoos? I don't know. I have 2 finger tattoos, so I couldn't really tell you. Like I mentioned earlier, I did put in a request with my tattoo artist to get my hands done, so I guess I'll tell you afterwards. I mean, I can imagine that they're not pleasant. Do you plan on getting a chest tattoo? I guess it depends on what you mean by plans. Literally, the only thing that I've said was at the very beginning of the year when I mentioned tattoo plans, hopefully for this year. And I said that I really, really wanted to get my hands done and my chest done. But I also mentioned that doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna get all of that done. My priority right now are my hands. Yes, I would love to get my chest done. Do I think it's gonna happen this year? Probably not. Just because tattoos do cost money, and if I'm going in with my hands, I feel like that's enough. I plan to eventually get my chest done, but there's no like set design, no set date for anything to be done. Can I stretch my ears if my piercing holes are misaligned? I feel like they will look funny. Now, when you say misaligned, do you mean like they're not even like with the other ones? So like the lobe piercing over here doesn't exactly meet the placement as the same one over here? Or do you mean misaligned as they're not in the center of your lobe and they're like closer to an edge? Because that really does depend. If it's more a matter of like the 2 that you have just don't quite match up with one another, absolutely you can. Now, if you mean that it's closer to an edge, you may run into some difficulty there just because you could stretch it a little bit, but then you're gonna run out of room eventually, cause a little bit of stress to your elasticity in your lobes, and that could be a problem. As for whether or not it'll look funny, again, I feel like that kind of depends on where exactly the placement is, what exactly you're referring to, and maybe the jewelry that you have in there. I feel like there are a few variables in play. Again, if it's more a matter of like you have your lobes pierced and they're not exactly in the same place on either side, should still be fine. Mine definitely aren't on the same place on either side, and I stretch them just fine. But if it's more a matter of like it's closer to an edge, that you might run into some problems with. What do I do first? 3rd, 4th lobe or conch, and 3rd lobe on right ear. I have 2 lobes each plus a helix. I gotta be honest, I'm not entirely sure your question. You're wanting to know if you should get your 3rd lobes and a conch or your 3rd lobes and your 4th lobes. Honestly, it kind of depends on your lifestyle and what you are willing to commit to. I will say please don't get all of that done at one time. You can do one at a time, so like 3rd lobes. You can get your 3rd lobes on either side, wait until it's healed, go back and either get a conch or your 4th lobes done. I would highly recommend against getting that many piercings done in one sit-in. It sounds like it would be 3 total based on what you listed there, but I think it kind of depends. I personally would probably lean away from doing 2 lobe piercings on each ear at the same time. Again, I would wait until one set is healed before you go in for that other set. Opinions on dermals. I want one, but they scare me. They scare me too. I used to want one, not anymore. I just feel like I would get them caught on a lot of things and rip them out, and it would just be a disaster. So as cute as they are, I personally would never get one. I really shouldn't say never, because you never know. There was a lot of nevers. How do you keep your hair so healthy being color treated? The biggest thing is I only wash it once a week. It can be a struggle, especially coming up in the months where I'm gonna sweat a little bit more. It's gonna be a little bit disgusting. Dry shampoo is gonna be my friend. It's a problem in the winter when my hair seems really flat. That's the big thing that I do, is that I only wash my hair once a week. That's why it remains vibrant between the 6 weeks of me getting it done and refreshed until I go back. I also use good products on my hair that are not gonna strip it of its oils or anything like that. That does take a little bit of trial and error and research to figure out what will be best. I do take a lot of tips from my hairstylist, and she's the professional, so she would know better. And so I listen to her on what is best. Washing it in cool water. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I have my water cold when I wash my dyed hair, because I don't. That would be a lie. But I do wash it in cooler temperatures that prolongs the color. I also take biotin daily, and that helps a lot with growth and strengthening it and just overall hair care. Are you planning to make another plug and tunnel collection? I mean, the collection video that I did last time is what I currently have. Buying new plugs and tunnels does cost money, and honestly, on a list of things that I need to pay for or buy, that's at the bottom, because you know, I gotta keep the lights on in this place. I gotta keep the internet going. The collection I showed y'all before is what I currently have. Thinking of getting my first nostril done, and I'm worried about bumps and boogies. Honestly, that comes with the territory. It's one of those things that you kind of get used to. At first, you're gonna be like, I promise I'm not picking my nose. I'm just cleaning. You get past it, you're like, I'm picking my nose. It's just a matter of making sure that things stay clean. Piercing bumps on nostrils for me have always been absolutely horrible. They do kind of go away after a while. You gotta keep up with the care. You gotta be patient with it. As for boogies, something that I found really helpful is to get a Q-tip and kind of just swab around your nostril, and it usually cleans it up. It's a little nasty, but we all have boogers. I got a helix piercing 3 weeks ago with a threadless labret stud. Can I change the top of it now since I'd be leaving the actual bar in now, or no? If it's just the threadless piece and it's just the little top part, you should be able to change it. If you're not actually pulling the jewelry piece that's going through the piercing out, you should be fine to change it. Just be very careful because 3 weeks is still pretty fresh. Sometimes those threadless pieces are difficult to get out, so don't like squeeze your ear at all and try and pull it out. If you notice that you're having a hard time, I would just leave it. But just changing the top part, you should be fine. Where is from your second ear hole jewelry? I'm actually gonna assume that you mean my third lobe ones, the dangles. Again, they are from Amazon, and if you would like a direct link to them, my Amazon storefront is in the description below, and they're listed over there. But a lot of people think this is my second lobe, but that's because there's a tiny little stud right in between my tunnel and then these dangles. How bad do lip labret piercings hurt? I personally didn't think they were bad, but I have entire videos about them over there if you want to go check them out. I personally didn't think they were that bad. It's mostly a pinch and a little bit of uncomfortableness because they are all up in your mouth. Do you have any tattoo piercing plans? Nostril piercing will forever be on there. I'm trying to wait for a time that my mom and I can go together and have like a mother-daughter day, but life happens and it's not like a top priority for me to get done. As for tattoo plans, like I mentioned a few times in this video, I did submit a request with my tattoo artist and she opened her books up the other day to get my hands done. So hopefully that'll happen. If you had a conch made with a gun and got infected, when can you get it re-pierced? First of all, that's kind of impressive. I really don't want to know how a piercing gun was able to fit over all of this so that you got your conch pierced. As for when can you get it re-pierced by a professional with a needle, it kind of depends on how it's looking. Make sure that it's completely healed. Make sure there's no infection. Look around the site. Piercing guns can cause a lot of damage, so it may be that you can't get it in that area again. But the best thing that you can do is go find a professional piercer and have them look at it and give you their opinion. Other than your nostril, will you get any more piercings? High nostrils are still on my mind. If I can get my nostril re-pierced, I will be pretty content for now. But if I were to get anything else, it could be the high nostrils, but other than that, no. I'm actually, I'm pretty piercinged out. I'd rather remove some than add too many more. Do stretch lobes size down if you don't wear plugs overnight? Kinda depends on how soon you stretch, like how recently the stretch was. I've had my lobes at a 1/2 inch for quite a while now. If I left them out overnight, they'd be perfectly fine. Now, if you just stretched and then take the jewelry out overnight, yes, it could absolutely go back down. If you leave them out for too long, they will definitely shrink down. One of my lobes, I have an entire video about how I had to basically re-stretch one of my lobes after my wedding because it got infected, had to leave it alone, and it downsized like 2 sizes. Just make sure that you're not leaving it out too long. And the final question, can sweat affect a facial piercing? It actually can, especially if it's a newer piercing. Now, if it is one that you've had for a bit, it shouldn't affect it too bad unless you're not practicing proper hygiene or anything like that. Like say you're sweating and then you don't wash your face. That could affect even a completely healed piercing, but as long as you're like washing your face and making sure that it stays clean around the area, that should be fine. Now, if this is a relatively new piercing and sweat gets around it, that could cause some type of problems. However, keep in mind, sweat does have salt in it. That is a joke. That is a joke. I'm not saying clean your piercings with your sweat. It is one of those things to be mindful of, that if you are sweating and it gets on a piercing, just clean it up afterwards. It's not gonna do anything immediate. Just know that it could potentially irritate it a bit, and if sweat continues to like build up around the jewelry, that could cause further problems. But like after one workout, if you sweat and it gets on there, wash your face and you should be fine after that. And those are the questions this month. There were quite a few. I am a little winded now. Thank you to everyone who submitted a question. But if you would like to submit a question for the next Body Mod Q&A, drop them in the comments below. Or again, follow me on my Instagram and wait for me to pop up the little question box over there and you can ask it there. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to go down there, hit that subscribe button, as well as that notification bell so YouTube will let you know when I upload next. But until next time, bye everyone.